Hey guys, and welcome to Sounds Like NYC episode 17, I think. If it's not 17, it's 18. If not, then sorry.
Yeah. You can always just go back and cut that.
Exactly. I'll just fucking...
Yeah, and just record it in a totally different room and to it outside, you'll hear birds chirping as you say 18. Exactly.
And I'm here with Jon.
Yes.
Tell me a little about yourself. What do you do?
Well, right now, I'm wearing a lot of hats. I'm a drummer. I do some writing. I lead a band with my wife called Industry Connection, and I also produce and I songwrite. I do a lot of different stuff. So also teaching, not that far away from here. There's a teaching studio on 44th or on 23rd Street. That I started teaching at. So I kind of do a lot.
It's good. What do you teach?
I'm a drummer.
Okay.
So I don't,
like history or something.
Yeah. And like to like kind of make ends meet, I do some temp work here.
Okay.
So
like,
like office temp stuff.
Okay.
I'm data entering for Fitch ratings right now. So that might change pretty quickly.
It's going to sound a little funny, but 20 years I've heard temp. I don't know what it means.
Oh, it just means that when they need somebody to fill in a role for a while, I just go and fill it in. So if somebody goes on vacation, my first temp job was to fill in for somebody who went on vacation in a mailroom.
Yeah.
Like that's all it is. I just fill in for people.
Okay. But it's boring, but it gets money.
Man, it is like, I wish I knew about it when I first moved.
Yeah. Because
I would have saved myself a lot of time and gotten a lot more money just because it pays pretty well and I can take or leave whatever gig. Like if this data entry thing doesn't work out, I can just call my temp agent and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Can you get me something else? And they'll get you something else. So, if something great happens.
Right, so it's just like freelancing.
Yeah. But I don't have to pay any tax stuff on it. Yeah, it's pretty great. Yeah,
I am taxed heavily because I'm an independent contractor because I work in real estate.
Yep,
I've
done that before. I hope it would be nice to do that again, to be making enough money to do that again. But I do not actually want to do it again. So
this has been a fun conversation about what artists have to do to make ends meet in New York City. But let's talk about something more fun. What do you have coming up? What's going on with you? Anything exciting?
Yeah, this last year I worked on a lot of different projects. Okay. And this year they're all coming out. So the big one that's going to be coming out personally for me is my record. It's my second record. I recorded one while I lived in Seattle. That's where I'm from. And that was like 6 years ago. So I've been through a lot of different stuff. It's all new material, so it's all brand new stuff with my working trio, which is me, Steve Denny on keys, and Aaron Caceres on bass. Okay. They're both my really good friends, and I've played with them that band's been together for like 3 years now, which is a rare thing in jazz music. But so that record's coming out in October. And it might even have a little 8 or 9 day tour attached to it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm starting to put in the preparatory work for that.
Yeah.
And I don't have a set date yet, but it's definitely going to be in October. That album's called Cityscapes. And then the other band that I lead, Industry Connection, is coming out with an EP at the end of the year too. It's our first EP. It's a band that my wife and I lead. We write the songs, book the gigs, get the players and all that. And then the other big project that I worked on that actually just should be finished, with mixing and mastering by the end of this month, is from a really great, incredible singer-songwriter who's also happens to be one of my really great friends, Jordan Ziskin. That album's going to be called Crazy Child.
Awesome.
And I not only worked on that as a drummer, but I also produced it. And I did a lot of other work, a lot of guitar stuff, a lot of keyboards.
Okay. So whatever space a band needs for you to fill in, you kind of just do it.
No. Because, I can do certain things on guitar and piano. Like, I can write on those instruments.
Yeah.
As far as actually playing them, that I can't quite do. Like, like the stuff that I was laying down for Jordan's record isn't like killer guitar shredding or anything like that.
But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, for records it doesn't have to be. And it's because I'm limited on those instruments. You can actually get some pretty cool, unique parts that no one else would think of.
Right.
Like your limitations can go a long way.
Yeah.
So I can like lay down some tracks, but nothing too crazy. Like I can't do a lot of melody stuff on either one of those. So I can lay down like a repetitive figure, or I can lay down just some like keyboard pad stuff. But I can't like solo. A lot of the melodic content that's in there is either done by Jordan or this guitar player that also is on Linden Street's EP, Carl Markgraf. Okay. Who's another guy that I know for a long time.
Do you think someone becomes more of an artist as soon as they learn how to pick up more than one instrument versus just like focusing on one? Like, where do you think like the line is? Like, I've always been sort of curious about like what artists think about that.
Well, I don't think it hinders you if you're just in one instrument.
Okay.
There's like it's less prevalent now, but it used to be that was just the deal. Yeah. Like a lot of drummers didn't know how to play piano. A lot of drummers didn't write, and actually a lot of drummers didn't lead bands. There's only two guys before like 1980 that I can think of that led bands. That's like Art Blakey's the really famous one, and then this guy Charlie Persep. And now drummers lead bands everywhere. Like there's tons of drummer led bands. And the other thing is you used to not have to write music to be a band leader. And that's a really crazy thing to think of now, because everybody needs, like, even the people who are doing pop music, like the artists are probably way more involved than they used to be in the writing process, in the songwriting process. So like Taylor Swift probably actually writes her songs. Like 15 years ago that didn't happen.
Right.
So like I don't think you need to learn a different instrument, but it can't hurt. Right. Like I don't like the way that I write on piano and guitar doesn't really affect my drumming, and vice versa. That's all your ear and how much music you're listening to, and the type of music you're listening to. That's way more important than figuring out what kind of artist you're going to be than just volume of stuff. Okay.
Because I'm really ADHD with everything. I like to take on like as many hats as I can. Yeah. But that's just me. I just like constantly doing something. I don't know. I hate having free time.
Yeah, I mean, free time is not great.
Yeah.
It's definitely, like, I started spinning my wheels pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That's usually when I try to find a piano and get something done. Because it's, like, not doing anything, like, it feels great for about a day. Yeah. And then after 2 days, it kind of feels all right. And then it just goes down. What the fuck am I doing? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what brought you to New York? You came from Seattle, so what gives? Yeah. Seattle sucks?
I took a kind of roundabout path. Okay. I never officially lived in Seattle. Like I grew up in Bellevue, Washington, which is just outside the city. And I went to school in Northern Colorado at University of Northern Colorado. And then immediately after I graduated, like 2 months after I graduated, I started working for Carnival Cruise Lines as a drummer. Okay. So like I never actually had to deal with, I'm going to uproot my life. My life was just constantly uprooted anyways. I don't think the longest I spent continuously in Seattle since I was 18 was 5.5 months.
Okay. Wow.
So, it wasn't like I was like doing all these gigs and like I had a little career in Seattle. And I moved. So the reason why I came to New York is because it's New York. I mean, like it's the artist mecca. Yeah. And I mean, it's a good thing that I came here too, because every now and then I'll scroll through like my hard drive and find some recording from like 3-4 years ago before I moved. Yeah. and it's just, I just can't stand it. It's full of so much crap. New York just makes you economize so much of your life that it eventually just gets into your playing. Like, I can't practice 2 hours a day, so I'm not going to try to play all this crazy shit that I practiced. All it's going to be is
interesting.
Like, I'm just going to economize everything.
Yeah. So do you feel that's the only way New York City has like affected your artistry?
Part of it, yeah. And like the big thing as a writer is that there's so much inspiration in New York. And it's also like, because I can go out and see just about anybody anywhere, I can always see what people are trying to do.
Right.
I mean, that's how it's affected me artistically as a drummer, just like the economization, like most of my gigs now until very recently, I have this residency every second and fourth Thursdays at this place in the West Village called Cafe Vivaldi. And until about a week ago, they didn't have a full kit. So I had this little like New York kit, like a converted piece of crap floor tom.
Yeah.
And, you can only bring what you can carry. So I never had a full kit for a long time. And that makes you think about a drum set very differently. Because all of a sudden, like, to get as many sounds out of one drum as possible is a really difficult task. So if you do it on a regular basis, then the freedom that you have on drum set is totally different. Right. Just because now I have all these other things that I can play. And that's probably how it's affected me. But yeah, just the inspiration of New York, Yeah. Yeah, there's a tune. I used to work, you might be able to see it from here. I used to work at the New York Times building for
oh shit, weeks. Really?
Yeah. And I was on the 50th floor. Yeah. And if you can't see that view and not be inspired to do something, if you're artistically there, you're eventually just going to be inspired by something in the city. Because
there's just so much going around, it's hard to not be.
Yeah, and even when you start getting to the history of New York, I live in Bushwick, and like just a couple, it wasn't that long ago that Bushwick was like a neighborhood you didn't want to go into. I have a friend who's lived in New York for years, and he says that's one of the neighborhoods that if you were going there in like 1998, if you're going to Bushwick, you were probably getting drugs.
Yeah.
Like there was no other.
I mean, it's still the case now. You're probably still getting drugs if you're going to Bushwick.
I mean, yeah. There's it's a little different.
Yeah, I mean, different kind of drugs.
26-year-old hipsters and just
crackheads.
It's very different.
I always talk about this because like, I'm usually around like Williamsburg, so like the last stop, like the L train on Bedford Ave. People used to be like really fucking scared to get off of it just because like
it's not long ago, maybe 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah. I was still yeah.
I mean, it's really crazy to think about that because now all these neighborhoods are like hip and they're way safer, and like there's still some stuff going on in the corner that I live on, and that instead of like being scared by it, I was actually like inspired. I wanted to read about this whole neighborhood because you hear kind of things and you hear about like New York in the 70s and what happened. So, but like just that history of that inspired writing something. Like it's like New York is just a treasure trove of this stuff like that.
I was actually reading a Facebook ad. I just clicked on a Facebook ad for like a streeties or something like that. And then in the comments, I was curious what people were saying about, and then somebody said, with these rising prices, is New York still like the artist mecca that it used to be? Like, cause
that's a fair question. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at what point, I guess, does the art just leave?
I don't think that'll ever happen in New York.
I don't think so either. I don't think so.
I mean, admittedly, like all the artist places like have all been like terrible, awful neighborhoods. Like, before Williamsburg, the Village was the place, and the Village was full of like heroin addicts and also musicians and comedians. Yeah. So, I don't think it'll ever leave. It's the hope for me, honestly, because New York attracts so many people, I kind of want those real estate prices and stuff like that to like thin out the herd a little bit. Because there are people that have moved here that have
for sure.
no reason of moving.
I
really hope that I'm not one of them. But I mean, I know a lot of people who move here. They just have no, like, they shouldn't have moved here in the first place.
Right, because they're just, the thing is, though, because I work in real estate too, I know a lot about, whatever the fuck's happening. But the reason why, apartment prices are so high is because the taxes are so fucking expensive.
Yeah.
They're so weird about, how things get taxed and stuff. So like it's a burden to the landlords to charge less. And then also they have to see it as like an investment property. So like it's,
I mean, that's like that part of it. I'm actually totally fine. I mean, I'm married. I'm not moving. I'm not living here single. Thank God. Like I don't know how single people.
I don't get it.
Do it. It's insane.
Yeah.
But it's still that place. Like I don't think any serious musician, definitely musician, because there's other places to go. Like if you're a filmmaker or a writer, you can always go to LA. That stuff's a little different. But for a musician, I don't think there's any, like, you have to come here for a while.
Yeah.
Even if you don't end up liking it. My private teacher in college came here and he was here for like maybe 8 months, but you still have to come here.
Yeah.
Like it's a really hard thing. And you can tell guys that have been here and who haven't. There's something about their playing. There's something about their writing, and one of my favorite quotes about New York is from Lorne Michaels, and it applies to music. And he was talking about how people in his hometown in Toronto just think that Toronto's like the greatest. And one of the things they say is like this Italian place on the corner is just as good as they have in New York. And he says the one place they don't say that is in New York.
Right.
And it's the same thing. Like anytime I hear like, oh man, this club, like, and the local talent in the city is just like New York. And like, well,
like no,
I'm
it
in
isn't.
New York.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's great about here is you have to find a way to stick your own neck out creatively. Like, you can't make a living off of copying somebody. Like the best example I can give is a guy like Joe Farnsworth, who has this certain sound, and a lot of people are starting to copy it because it's like an old school sound, and he's got a bunch of new ideas.
Yeah.
So if I go back home to Seattle, or I go to Denver or wherever, and somebody sounds exactly like Joe Farnsworth, they're going to have a ton of gigs and shows.
Right.
They're just going to work like crazy.
Right.
But if you sound like that here, I mean, why can't I just go and watch Joe Farnsworth? Like,
exactly.
He's right there. And he plays
at
like 6 places every week.
Yeah.
So you have to find something. I think it makes you more of an individual. I think that's why people keep coming to it. Because you can't fake it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one thing to just like be somebody, and it's another thing to take bits and pieces from like everything around it. I feel like that's what makes an artist, because you're just like, you have your own perspective on everything. Like you're the only person who can get a little bit of, whoever the fuck you're listening to or whatever, and apply that into your playing. So 100%. Yeah.
And like, I mean, if you don't, I think there's so many, I think one of the things that is kind of weird about New York is a lot of the schools in New York have a lot of the clients. Like if you think about clientele of clubs, a lot of them come from like New School and NYU. So, maybe that kind of hurts the scene in the short run.
Yeah.
But once all those people leave, like it's still the same old rules. Like I've been telling people that anytime you go on stage or go start playing somewhere, you have to earn the audience's listen. You can't just expect them to sit there and listen, even if they paid a cover charge. There's so many people who just sound fine, but there's nothing interesting about their music or about their playing. Like they're kind of hitting the same notes as other people. And when music starts to get homogenized
do you feel like people need to like look for that sort of like difference, or is it just something that comes to you?
I think
and if it doesn't come to you, then you're just like, you're not a good artist.
I think it has to do with the perspective of how you work.
Okay.
Someone started telling me a while ago, this great piano player in Seattle named Ruel Lubag sat down with me in my charts, and he started like fixing things here and there. And one of the things he said that stuck with me is that you have to think about the audience in your work.
Right.
So, I mean, that doesn't mean you have to pander, but you have to think like, you know, if I'm writing a chart, is this going to be interesting to listen to?
Right.
That's where I started writing and kind of playing from. Like, I don't really care if I'm the most burning guy in the world, or if this chart is going to change music. Yeah. I really just want to see if it's going to be an interesting listen. Like, am I putting enough twists on old forms? Like a lot of the stuff on my upcoming record, it's not standard song forms. Okay. A lot of it is like, there's one tune that's like a 20 bar form. There's one that's like 28. There's, I mean, it's kind of all over the place, and harmonically I hope harmonically it's interesting enough, but like you have to think from the audience perspective. A lot of people just don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a balance of like being interesting and then being like too complex for somebody to even like care about. So
yeah, and there are a lot of people who think that complex means it has to be like weird, and even that's not really thinking about the audience, because there's a lot of people who write charts as like based off like some kind of theory or something, and they'll write a melody to that with that in mind. So like you won't get a melody, you'll get some sounds, but no one's gonna walk away humming the tune. Like even today, my favorite guys, which is like John Coward and Brian Blade of the Brian Blade Fellowship, they write these really harmonically dense, like rhythmically interesting, and have like different forms, and they take you in all different directions, but their melodies aren't like, that's what holds the tune together for a listener, I think, is if you have a strong, good melody that they can walk away singing, they're going to be more interested in the song. And they just have such simple, good melodies that you can attach yourself to really easily. Even though they have all this other craziness going on, that melody is still so strong that anybody can always identify with it, and that will pull them in.
Yeah. How much do you think, like, everything, like, I feel like even like the title of the song, like, changes like the whole, like, perspective of it. Do you think that deeply or no?
I mean, not
like a shitty title can like kill a song.
I don't believe that.
Okay.
I think that because most guys don't announce tunes like before. They usually announce them after they start playing them. They kind of do them in groups of twos back to back. Pop tunes are different. Songwriting a pop tune, one of the reasons why lyric writing and songwriting is so hard is because everything has to have that meaning. And so you have to search and find the right title for a pop tune. For a jazz tune, it can really be anything.
That's true.
And as long as the things that you write with specific meaning have that type of title. I don't think that titles affect tunes that much. I
like reading interesting titles. I saw one. It's like "Who I Want to Be.jpg." I thought that was really interesting. I don't know. I just like. I guess
sometimes it's it can be like really quirky and stuff like that. Yeah. Other times it can just, as long as it describes something about the tune, it's fine.
Awesome. So, real quick before you go, anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, if anybody listening wants to go check me out, I'm at shecklermusic.com. And, I mean, I got a bunch of stuff coming up. The Lindistry Band's starting to work a lot. We might actually have a gig pretty close to here on 31st Street.
Awesome.
At this place, Local Bar. And, Yeah, just look for us. We're around quite a bit, and then
Yeah,
the
well,
trios in
yeah.
year 2 of the residency. So
Be sure to send me all the links, and I'll link it up on the video.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much.
No problem.
It's really fun, John. And